Hello and welcome to our Tuesday edition of Corn-Fed Sports in the Morning. My name is Pat Radigan. I'm the publisher and founder here at Corn-Fed Sports, and I'm hosting today. Joining me a little bit later, we'll have one of the guys who's probably going to step in and help us hosting and might become our regular Tuesday host. So get used to it. We'll have another face on there here for our second segment. But just to start our show, we're going to run you through some Husker headlines and keep you updated on some of the things that happened this weekend, as well as the women's basketball game from last night. So that's where we'll start, is last night with the women's basketball game. After taking a lead into the final minutes, Iowa rallied late, but Nebraska was able to hold on for a win over Iowa. It's their fourth straight win over the Hawkeyes. Iowa nailed a three-pointer at the buzzer to make it the final score seem a little bit closer than it was. So Nebraska made some clutch free throws down the stretch from Haley Sample to keep the lead and to stay far enough that Iowa missed their three-pointer to try and tie, and Nebraska was able to salt the game away with two more free throws. Jordan Hooper had hit 11 of 23 shots to go for her big night. And the extra that says 16.7 rebounds. That's not right. She had more points than that. She had 29 points last night. Brandy Jeffrey scored 10 points off the bench last night for the Huskers, providing a spark. T. Laudermill has been providing some of that offense and has been providing some of those things for the team lately. And now Brandy Jeffrey's getting back healthy, getting back in the groove of things. So Brandy Jeffrey was able to score some points off the bench. Rachel Terrio hit a pair of three-pointers. This kept kind of her hot shooting, some of her clutch play recently. So the Nebraska offense was in rhythm. They were able to get a big lead early on. Like I said, Iowa hit some three-pointers, rallied down the stretch. Nebraska stalled out a little bit when they went to their, to slow it down on offense. But the Huskers were able to get the points they needed. They held on and got the big win. It's their sixth straight win in conference, and it's their fourth straight Big Ten road win. So, Coach Yori's squad, we're going to talk a little bit more about that in our second segment. We have a special segment coming up in round two of our show this morning. But we'll continue on with something from this weekend. The Nebraska women's tennis team went 2-1 at the ITA Indoor Team National Championships. Nebraska was defeated by the number 8 seed but number 10 nationally ranked Miami in the first round, but bounced back to beat a pair of ranked foes to win their version or their side of the consolation bracket. There's also a quarterfinal consolation bracket, so there wasn't just one consolation champion, but Nebraska was able to beat a higher ranked Baylor team and take care of a Vanderbilt squad that was ranked right around where they're at. So some highly ranked teams out in Virginia this week. Nebraska was able to walk away with the win, or with a couple wins after the first round loss. So that runs their record. They've now improved on the year, and they're going to move on to some Big Ten play. They have Northwestern was actually able to upset number 7 Alabama in the first round and was able to win their quarterfinal consolation match over the same Miami team that beat Nebraska. So they have an opponent in Northwestern in the Big Ten that will certainly provide them a challenge. So the Huskers will turn their attention to Big Ten play. They're coming off a year where they set the most wins in school history. So Nebraska will look to improve off this indoor team championships as they get into the heart of some of their dual seasons here. We'll continue on with the Nebraska men's tennis team. The men's tennis team also went 2-1 this weekend, although they were at home and it was just a handful of matches against some local competition. Nebraska lost to a ranked Drake squad, but was able to take down the higher-ranked VCU squad to respond before taking care of Creighton on Sunday night and blew out the Blue Jays with 6 wins in that match. Nebraska was edged on the first day, but they were able to take a lead early on against VCU and hold on for the upset on the second day at the Nebraska Tennis Center. Nebraska is now, they've run to 500 on the season, but they have some opponents coming up at home. They have some more matches that kind of work out in their favor, so they'll look to be above that 500 mark. They spent a lot of last year ranked towards the end of the year, so they'll try and move up into the national rankings. They have teams like Ohio State in conference and some bigger programs that are still on their slate, and some teams that they can potentially upset and move up in the rankings. So Nebraska lost their first time out, but they've had some success at home since then, and they're kind of on a roll lately and got an upset this weekend and took care of Creighton to wrap it up, get a 2-1 weekend, and have another successful weekend at the Nebraska Tennis Center. So we'll wrap up our Husker headlines here this morning with the Nebraska rifle team, who was also in action in Lincoln this past weekend and was narrowly edged by Army at the Nebraska rifle range. The senior day was the last home competition for the Huskers, but Nebraska, the good news is that they'll now head to the NCAA championships at a range where they've already won a tournament. They won the Withrow invite earlier this year at Murray State's range. So it's a range where they've had success. They were the first of 13 teams. It was kind of a multi-layered competition too, so they shot well through the preliminaries, and they held on in the final rounds, and they posted a good score. So Nebraska's looking to get back to the NCAA tournament, and like I said, we'll have some more insight into this, women's basketball, softball, and rifle here in our second segment. So that's our version of Husker headlines here for this Tuesday morning. We'll come back right after this quick break, and we'll do we'll get into the mind of some of the Husker coaches here at Corn-Fed Sports in the morning. So we'll take a quick break, and then you can join us again. All right, hello and welcome back to Corn-Fed Sports in the morning. We're going to try something new here. It's a segment we had on one of our previous shows, but we're going to do it with a little bit of a new format here. Joining me, we have Cade McFadden. He's going to be one of our hosts that contributes, and right now he's helping produce with the show today. So Cade's going to walk me through a couple different Husker coaches. I'm going to try and get inside the minds of a couple different Husker coaches. So he's going to present me with the challenges, and I have to try and explain what I think is going on in their heads at this point in the season. So, Cade, are you ready to go?
Sure, let's do it, Pat.
All right, who's the first coach we have going?
First coach is a Nebraska rifle team, Stacy Underwood. We'll hear from her and have her talk about the great weekend that the rifle team had.
Definitely, and if I'm Coach Underwood and if I'm thinking about how this weekend translates to the NCAA tournament and trying to project out, you can see not just from the recent results, but from some of the things they've been saying and some of the the things, some twit pics that have been coming from the programs and things like that. They've been improving, and they're happy about their improvement. And they're going up against the number 5 Army team that has some experienced shooters, and Nebraska right now has a mix of some seniors and some young talent. But what's good about what they did this last weekend is that they not only stayed right with them, but they posted a score that's kind of in the same realm that a team like Army is typical and that they've posted throughout this year. So if you don't know how Rifle breaks down, Rifle has to do with 3 qualifying scores. It has to do with your NCAA qualifying score and kind of an average of all those different things. So to go out there and post a score at this range, to post a score at an away range like they did in winning the Withrow tournament earlier this year, to be able to have an opportunity to go to that same range and post an NCAA score that could be on the same level as that first place score that they've already had is a challenge that they can handle, and is something that I think they're looking forward to. So if I'm her, I'm excited. Nebraska hasn't been to the NCAA tournament for Rifle since 2010, but right now with their rankings, they're right in a position where they can, if they just keep doing what they're doing, if they just make one more little step, one more little push towards the end of the year, they can easily get there. So if I'm her, I'm calm, I'm collected. The team's going to a place where they've had some success, and you hope that your combination of some older girls on the team as well as some young talent will come through, and they'll be able to lead the team to get back to those NCAA qualifiers. So we'll move on to the second coach here. Kate, who we got for our next coach?
Our next coach is women's basketball coach Connie Yori. We'll hear about how her team is on a 6-game winning streak right now and pulled out a close win against Iowa last night.
Definitely, and if I'm Coach Yori, the one thing that I think has been really encouraging over these last few games is it's not just Jordan Hooper making every single 3 she takes, and Lindsey Moore getting to the basket and getting to the free throw line and putting up 25 to go with Hooper's 30, and it's not just been one other role player, and Emily Cady going for 15 or Rachel Terry having a big game. It's a combination of a bunch of different little things. When Rachel Terry is distributing the ball and hitting a couple jumpers, T. Laudermill is also getting some steals, getting some and ones at the rim, and providing some defensive pressure that leads to easy baskets for players like Megan Williams, Katie Simon, different players like that. So it's what's encouraging about it is that the team as a whole has been running through the system a lot better. Has been, obviously there have been some defensive things in there. Last night that I was able to storm back and make the game a little closer than they probably wanted it to be. But those are things you can fix. Those are things that are fixable items within the system. So they're not going to have to stretch very far. They just have to get back to doing the simple things to fix some of the issues they've kind of been having. But the encouraging thing is that the places they haven't been having issues are with the continuity on offense, with being able to score in bunches at home and on the road. 4 straight conference road wins. If you ask any coach in the Big Ten, and basically any sport, if you can win 4 times away from home in a row, that's a pretty miraculous feat. So Nebraska started a little shaky. They made the comments, we can't lose again, and they haven't lost again since then. So let's, we'll see. The test now is to see if they can keep it going, take it game by game, and there's some teams coming up that maybe Nebraska will still be favored against, but it's certainly teams that Nebraska will have to watch out. They're tied right now with Purdue for second in the league. They can move ahead there. If Penn State suffers an upset, Nebraska's got Penn State on senior day at home, final day of the regular season. So there's some wiggle room there if they need to make some moves late in the year, and instead of need to make the 4 days and 4 games and 4 days run, they can get a bye. They can have a game where they can maybe cruise in their first round or their first game at the Big Ten tournament and make a run at that championship instead of just trying to have enough able bodies to finish the game. So if I'm her, I'm relaxed. Like Coach Underwood for the Rifle team. I know I said that for there, but both of these coaches have a lot to be relaxed about. Have a lot to be positive about. Now it's just about turning that positivity into consistency and just keeping that grind going. So we'll come in for the last coach here, and we'll go to an outdoor sport actually. So we'll go with Kate. Who we got for our final coach?
Our last coach, and definitely not least, is Husker softball coach Rhonda Revelle. She saw her team start the season 5-0 this last weekend, sweeping a tournament in New Mexico.
Yeah, if I'm Coach Revelle, I'm probably more excited than the other 2 people on this list. Nebraska's out to their best start. They've tied their best start since 2003. They not only went out there and got the wins they needed, but they did it in impressive fashion. They have a number of players with over 1,000 slugging percentage, lots of RBIs across the board. They've scattered some of their returning players and some of their young players throughout the top and bottom of the lineup, but they look good. Players like Kiki Stokes at the top of the lineup, doing some different things. She got a single to start and got thrown out trying to take second on her very first at bat, but that's a freshman type thing. That's something you'll see, but they were able to survive some of those little things, and then you saw the growth. You saw some of the smarter plays, scoring on pass balls, some of those little things that really made a difference for Nebraska and made a difference in allowing Nebraska to stay perfect on the weekend. And I think if I'm Coach Revelle, the biggest thing I'm thinking is how exciting it is that not only did Nebraska go out there last year, they upset a team like Arizona early on in the year, but there's some slip-ups. They had some games they knew they probably should have won early on the road in tournaments like this. But for Nebraska to go out there, they were pushed by Illinois Chicago in the 3rd game they played in this weekend. Had to go to 8 and took the game 4-3. So it was a narrow game there. but they still came out with the win. Tatum Edwards filling in, jumping in for a pitcher like Ashley Hageman. You have a new ace, you have a new pitcher that's going to be relied on for a lot of innings, especially with the young pitchers on the roster right now. So it's not only nice to see Tatum come out that way, but it didn't really affect her much at the plate. She was still able to produce and still able to provide some offense for the team, as well as the freshman pitchers coming in had some pop, had some some dynamic innings, and had a showing on the mound that really inspires hope for the rest of the year. And Nebraska maybe will be better suited with three pitchers in the mix. And you never know who's going to keep contributing at the plate and who's going to the lineup has a lot more depth as well. So there's depth throughout the team. You're seeing contributions from young players and the veteran, the upperclassmen alike. So if I'm Coach Revelle, again, I'm excited. This team is going to do a lot of good things. I think it's really fitting that Nebraska is wrapping things up with a game against Michigan at home at the end of the year, because everything's just kind of going to be building towards that. So this is the first step towards trying to measure up to a program like Michigan. But I think if Nebraska keeps developing the way they've shown earlier this year, and if I'm her, I'm positive about how this program can show when they get towards the end of the year. All right, well, that wraps up our segment here where we're trying to get inside the minds of some of the Husker coaches. Like I said, we're still tweaking things. We're still modifying some of it. We're going to enhance some of our graphics. We'll have, hopefully we'll have some smoother ways of working through all this. But like I said, this is our first week. We'll have every show this week at 10 a.m. So we've established a schedule. Our Friday show is going to be this Friday afternoon to kind of look ahead to some of the weekend things. So we'll keep kind of modifying some of these things. We'd like to hear some of your feedback if you have it. We're going to try and get you guys more involved, and we'll be able to take some of your questions in some of these segments. But for now, we're just kind of establishing a method here for our show at Corn-Fed Sports. So that does it for our second segment here. We'll come back with just kind of a quick third segment here. It's something new we're also trying. So we'll take a quick break, and we'll be back for one last segment here for Corn-Fed Sports in the morning. All right, so we decided to take a little bit of a quicker break to jump right into this. Like I said, we're trying something new out, so we're just gonna give it a run and see how it goes. This new segment is going to be the precursor for what we're going to call our Corn-Fed Confessionals here. It's going to be a time where one of our reporters, one of our staff members, takes some time to talk about something that they find important and something that they think needs to be said. And so I'm starting out here, especially after this morning, after the news. It had been whispered about and some people had talked about it. But this morning, the IOC made it official that they're dropping Olympic wrestling from the 2020 Olympic Games. And I just wanted to use this first Corn-Fed Confessional to talk about how if in a state like Nebraska, if a program like Nebraska's wrestling, just how devastating and how disheartening it is to hear that the IOC, in searching for something new and searching for rejuvenating the games, is making a move this drastic while keeping some of the other traditional sports, some of the sports that are out of the mainstream eye, that don't have as big of followings or don't have as many people that care as intensely about it as they do. But within a state like Nebraska, like I said, with a program like Nebraska, with a recent Olympian like Jordan Burroughs coming from our program, that to hear that the Olympic Committee has marginalized the dreams of not just thousands, but hundreds of thousands of young athletes across this country who not only aspire to be NCAA champions, but aspire to be Olympic champions. And all they want to do is go onto those mats and go onto that Olympic stage, that international stage that has been the pinnacle of wrestling for as long as they can remember, and represent their countries and walk away with the gold medal. That if you don't have Olympic wrestling, all I see is gold, and people like Jordan Burroughs and ideas like that are going to start slipping away because you need that ultimate prize. You need that ultimate goal. And wrestling is one of the core sports that founded the Olympics. That's one of the sports that's been around for as long as the Olympics Games has been, and that has certainly had its fair share of ups and high stories and intriguing stories for our country, for other countries, for smaller countries. When you look at the type of wrestlers who are able to make medal runs from Iran, from other countries who don't necessarily have huge Olympic programs in other areas, but wrestling's kind of been the common denominator, that one individual, one person with a goal, with a dream, can go out there and represent their country and do things that's not possible in other sports. Wrestling's a sport that thousands of kids in Nebraska, that hundreds of thousands of kids across this country look up to people like NCAA champions, like Jordan Burroughs, like All-Americans that we have here, like Craig Brester and other people within our program that have come through in recent years. And to take away that top level and to take away, it's not right. And if members of the IOC, if members of these people making the decision could come to any Big Ten home wrestling duel, could come to the Big Ten finals, could come to the NCAA wrestling finals and see the emotion and see the passion and see how much it means to those wrestlers when they run out of that tunnel and are greeted by tens of thousands of people at a live NCAA finals, they'd understand just how absurd it is to think that this isn't a game that belongs in the Olympics. So I hope and I pray that through this process, that after they see what it means in 2016, after they realize what the wrestling community means to the Olympic community, that they decide to overturn this and get the wrestling back in the Olympic Games. Because wrestling, as I've learned in covering Nebraska and being around this program, wrestling is a sport that matters not just on the local level, not just on the national level, but really is one of the inspirational sports in a global sense that transcends all cultures, that transcends all geographic borders, and isn't, there are a lot of sports you see that are divided in different parts of the country. Wrestling truly is an international sport and truly belongs at the Olympic Games and embodies everything the Olympics are about. So I hope that we can get that turned over, and I hope that we can keep sending Nebraska national champions to the Olympic Games to represent our country. So that's our first Corn-Fed Confessional here, and that also brings an end to our Corn-Fed Sports in the Morning. For Corn-Fed Sports, I'm Pat Radigan.